Prepare yourself for an even deeper, more unsettling journey into forgotten mists of time, a period so ancient and so distinct from our own that its very existence forces us to question the limits of our imagination. This is not merely a recounting. It's an unflinching dissection of downfall, revealing how a world of unparalleled splendor descended into deepest darkness, only to be ultimately purged by a cataclysmic flood of unprecedented scale. The cradle of life, a perfect world in the dawn of humanity. In the beginning, when the divine word echoed into the void, Earth was not as we know it today. Imagine a planet that was a global garden, an oasis of perfection and promise. The scriptures and ancient traditions suggest that Earth was enveloped by a canopy of water vapor, firmament, that acted as an atmospheric dome, filtering harmful solar rays and creating a temperate, uniform climate across the entire globe. There were no torrential downpours, only a gentle mist that rose from the ground to water the vegetation. Genesis chapter 2, verse 6. This environment fostered unparalleled plant abundance, with lush forests stretching across vast plains. The flora was of astonishing gigantism, and the fauna, incredibly diverse and majestic, coexisted in perfect harmony. The atmospheric pressure, possibly higher, contributed to oxygen-rich air, promoting not only the longevity of creatures, but also the exuberance of life in all its forms. In this breathtaking setting, the first humans emerged, Adam and Eve. Created in the image and likeness of God, they inhabited Eden, a garden of delights, the epicenter of all this perfection. What was life like in this paradise? It was an existence of unbroken communion with the Creator. Adam and Eve knew no shame, guilt, fear, or pain. Their minds were pure, their emotions untainted. Their purpose was to explore, tend the garden, name the animals, an act of wisdom and dominion, and, above all, maintain an intimate and direct relationship with God. Work was a joy, not a burden, focused on cultivating and guarding paradise. The land yielded its fruits in abundance, ensuring that food was plentiful and pleasurable, based on vegetables, fruits, and seeds. Genesis chapter 1. Verse 29. The need for clothing as we know it was non-existent. Their innocence was their covering. They lived in complete harmony with nature, without the slightest shadow of conflict or threat. The seed of the fall and the onset of degradation. The serpent, cunning and beautiful, introduced doubt, the seed of discord. Adam and Eve's choice, an act of disobedience, shattered their perfect communion. Eden was lost, and with it, their innocence. The curse of the sweat of your brow imposed labor as a burden, and pain, sickness, and death entered the world. However, even after fall, Earth was still immensely abundant. Human longevity was phenomenal, with men living for centuries. Adam lived 930 years, Seth 912, Methuselah 969. This longevity allowed for an unprecedented accumulation of knowledge, skills, and, unfortunately, also of sin. How did humans live in these early generations after Eden? Life was primarily clan-based, with strong family ties forming the foundation of society. Families were extended, with many generations living simultaneously, which facilitated the oral transmission of knowledge and stories, including those of God and Eden. Where did they live, and what were their homes like? Initially, dwellings were simple. The Bible mentions that Jabal, from the line of Cain, was the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. Genesis chapter 4, verse 20. This suggests a nomadic or semi-nomadic life for many, taking advantage of the vast pasture lands. Tents would have been made of animal skins, wood, and plant fibers, adapted for an itinerant life. However, sedentary life also became established. Cain, after murdering Abel, built a city, and he named it after his son Enoch. Genesis chapter 4, verse 17. This indicates that, even in the early generations, there was a construction of more permanent settlements, with structures likely made of mud, stone, or wood, aiming for security and establishment. Homes were functional, designed to shelter large families and offer protection. How did they work and sustain themselves? The antediluvian economy was agricultural and pastoral. Abel was a shepherd, and Cain was a farmer. Genesis chapter 4, verse 2. Labor was a basis of sustenance, requiring effort, but the still generous earth rewarded them with abundance. Agriculture, cultivation of grains, fruits, and vegetables, utilizing the fertile soil. Pastoralism, raising sheep and other animals for wool, milk, and eventually meat. Metallurgy. Tubal-Cain, also from the line of Cain, is described as a father of all who forged bronze and iron. Genesis chapter 4, verse 22. This demonstrates remarkable technological advancement, allowing for the creation of more durable tools for agriculture, construction, and, unfortunately, also weapons. Music and arts. Tubal-Cain's brother, was a father of all who played a lyre and pipe. Genesis chapter 4, verse 21. Music and art were integral parts of the culture, used to express emotions, tell stories, and, depending on the lineage, for worship or entertainment. If this journey into a world so unlike our own fascinates you, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to our channel for more revelations from ancient history. How did they dress and eat? After the fall, God provided the first garment of animal skins for Adam and Eve, Genesis chapter 3, verse 21, establishing the use of animal hides. Food remained primarily vegetarian, although the use of animals for clothing might have led to consumption of meat, especially as it was explicitly permitted after the flood. Genesis chapter 9, verse 1. The earth, still pristine and fertile, provided enough for everyone without great difficulty, family and social coexistence. Initially, the family structure was the backbone of society. Longevity meant that grandparents, great-grandparents, and even great-great-grandparents lived together, transmitting wisdom and traditions. Stories of Eden, the fall, and the promise of redemption were passed down orally. However, the seed of sin, planted at the fall, grew. The tragedy of Cain and Abel demonstrated how quickly envy and hatred could lead to deadly violence. The lineage of Seth sought a connection with the Creator. The Bible states that in the days of Enoch, Seth's son, people began to call upon the name of the Lord, Genesis chapter 4, verse 26, indicating a spiritual awakening and the formation of a group seeking God. Enoch, a descendant of Seth, walked with God for 300 years and was no more because God took him away. Genesis chapter 5, verse 24, a living testament to the possibility of a righteous life in a world already beginning to corrupt. In contrast, the lineage of Cain was marked by technological and artistic innovations, but also by violence and polygamy. Lamech, a descendant of Cain, broke the monogamy instituted by God, taking 2 wives, and boasted of his own violence, Genesis chapter 4, verses 23 to 24. This declaration reveals a society where vengeance and self-sufficiency had supplanted divine justice. Despite the abundance of the earth and the longevity that offered time for development, the human heart, far from God, gravitated toward depravity. The freedom given in Eden was perverted into licentiousness. The cosmic fall, fallen angels, and the rise of the Nephilim. The degradation wasn't just moral, it became cosmic. The Bible, in Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 to 4, recounts an event that would seal the fate of this world. When people began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The sons of God were fallen angels. These celestial beings, part of the angelic host who had already rebelled against God under Satan's leadership, descended to earth with a calculated and malicious purpose. They abandoned their proper dwelling, Jude chapter 1, verse 6, and the divine plan. If you're finding this deep dive into ancient scriptures illuminating, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our next exploration. What was the purpose of their orgy of wickedness and destruction on earth? Their primary objective was to corrupt the human bloodline so irreparably that God's plan to bring the Savior through a pure human seed would become impossible. It was a direct strategy by Satan to nullify the divine promise made in Eden about the seed of the woman who would crush the serpent's head, Genesis chapter 3, verse 15. They aimed to destroy the image of God in humanity, making them genetically and spiritually corrupted. This abominable union gave rise to the Nephilim. Who were the Nephilim? They were hybrid beings of colossal stature, the giants, and superhuman strength and ferocity. They were not merely tall men, but the physical manifestation of spiritual depravity, the offspring of an unnatural union between the fallen divine and the human. They were the embodiment of tyranny and violence. What did they do to humans? The Nephilim became the unquestioned tyrants of the antediluvian world. They were the men of renown in the sense of infamy and oppressive power. They dominated and terrorized the remaining humanity with rampant violence. Ancient legends suggest their hunger was insatiable, leading them to consume not only animals but also human flesh, making them predators of their own hybrid species. They enslaved populations, forced labor on colossal constructions, and spread terror wherever they went. With the influence of the fallen angels and the dominion of the Nephilim, the world was plunged into a complete orgy of sin, heresy, and perversion. The corruption of mind and knowledge. The fallen angels taught humans forbidden secrets. Advanced metallurgy was used to create more lethal weapons, culminating in mass warfare and slaughter. Cosmetics and adornments became tools for rampant vanity and lust, corrupting purity and modesty, and promoting a culture of hedonism and superficiality. Witchcraft, divination, astrology, and pagan rituals, many involving human sacrifice, replaced the worship of God, leading to complete spiritual apostasy and the proliferation of heresies. Occultism and demon invocation became common practices. These historical insights often challenge our modern perspectives. If you appreciate content that makes you think, please leave a like. The corruption of society and morals. Sexual immorality reached terrifying heights, including incest bestiality, implied in the widespread corruption of creation, pedophilia, and other perversions that defied all natural and moral order. Human dignity was obliterated, and the body profaned. Justice was a chimera. The law of the strongest was the only rule. Empathy and compassion disappeared, replaced by brutal selfishness and cold indifference to others' suffering. Human life had insignificant value. Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 to 7 summarizes the situation. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds in the sky, for I regret that I have made them. The judgment and the seed of hope. God's decision to send the flood was not an act of impulsive wrath, but a supreme intervention of justice and mercy. His intention was twofold: purification, to cleanse the earth from the orgy of wickedness, genetic, moral, and spiritual corruption that infested it. It was radical surgery to save creation from a fatal gangrene. Preservation, to protect a pure human bloodline, the only one that could still fulfill God's plan for redemption through the Messiah. If the corruption continued, humanity would be irredeemably lost. In this almost total darkness, the luminous figure of Noah emerges. When and why did Noah enter the story? Noah was an adult with a family when the earth's wickedness reached its saturation point. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Genesis chapter 6, verses 8 to 9. Noah was not perfect, but in a generation where the orgy of sin was a norm, he refused to participate. He maintained his faith, integrity, and communion with God, becoming the last beacon in a condemned world. For more profound insights into biblical history and its relevance today, ensure you subscribed and turned on notifications. God chose him to be the guardian of humanity's seed. God revealed to Noah his plan of judgment and, crucially, the plan of salvation through construction of the Arkansas. While the world mocked and continued its spiral into depravity, Noah, in an act of faith incomprehensible to his contemporaries, spent over a century building a gigantic vessel, preaching righteousness and inviting repentance. The flood was a catastrophic end of a world that lost itself in an orgy of sin and abomination. It was a burial of an era where fallen angels and Nephilim tried to destroy the divine plan, and where humanity plunged into the deepest depravity. But it was also the manifestation of God's justice and mercy, a new beginning forged in one man's faith, in his family's obedience, and an enduring possibility of redemption. Reflections and lessons for the post-flood world, our time. The story of the antediluvian world is not just an ancient narrative. It is a powerful mirror and an urgent warning for our own era. The fragility of perfection. The antediluvian world began in perfection, but sin corrupted it. This teaches us that perfection is not static. It needs to be cultivated and guarded. Our own society, with all its advancements, is always one step away from degradation if we abandon moral and spiritual principles. The peril of longevity and knowledge without wisdom, the long lives of the antediluvians, combined with knowledge, including the forbidden knowledge from fallen angels, did not lead to utopia but to extreme depravity. This reflects our time. We have access to an unprecedented amount of information and technology. However, without divine wisdom and a moral foundation, this technology can be used for destruction, for creating increasingly lethal weapons, for manipulating life, and for promoting previously unthinkable heresies and immoralities. Knowledge without God is a double-edged sword. If these reflections resonate with you, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. The escalation of sin, degradation was not instantaneous. It began with Adam and Eve's disobedience, progressed to Cain's murder, Lamech's polygamy and violence, and culminated in the abomination of the fallen angels and Nephilim. Sin, if unchecked, grows and spreads, corrupting individuals, families, and entire societies. Our small moral compromises today can be the precursors to major collapses tomorrow. The importance of family, the disintegration of the antediluvian family structure, polygamy, violence, lack of values, was a key factor in society's downfall. This highlights the importance of the family as the fundamental unit of society and for the transmission of values. Strong, godly families are bulwarks against moral decay. The nature of total corruption, the phrase, every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time, is chillingly relevant. In a post-flood world with all its technology and freedom, we observe the glorification of immorality, the trivialization of violence, the incessant pursuit of pleasure and power, and the rejection of any divine authority. The cancel culture, relativization of truth, and moral fluidity echo the spiritual blindness of that time. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Your support helps us bring more vital truths to light. The temptation of forbidden knowledge and malign influences. The fallen angels taught witchcraft, occultism, and the arts of war. Today, we are bombarded by all kinds of knowledge and influences through media, the internet, and social networks. Discerning what is good and what is evil is more crucial than ever. The fascination with the occult, the pursuit of shortcuts to power and wealth, the constant exposure to violence and immorality in entertainment are modern versions of the teachings of the fallen angels. God's sovereignty and justice. God is patient, but his patience has limits. The flood was irrefutable testimony that he is just and that sin will have consequences. But it was also an act of love to preserve humanity. This reminds us that God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His justice and his love are non-negotiable. God's grace amidst judgment. Noah's story is a beacon of hope. Amidst the greatest depravity, God found one righteous man and spared him. This shows us that even in the darkest days, those who choose to walk with God will find grace and provision. Noah preached for 120 years, perhaps with no one listening, yet he remained faithful. His life is a call to faithfulness and to the courage to be different, to swim against the current of a decaying world. The antediluvian world is more than a distant tale. It is a deafening echo of our own challenges and choices. It warns us about the danger of a life without God, a life where self-sufficiency and depravity lead to ruin. And at the same time, it inspires us with the truth that, even when darkness seems total, there is always an arc of salvation for those who, like Noah, choose to walk with the Creator. The story invites us to reflect. Are we building our own ark, or are we drowning in the same orgy that condemned the world before the flood? This journey through the forgotten history of the antediluvian world is a profound reminder of humanity's capacity for both good and evil, and God's unwavering justice and mercy. What chilling parallels do you see between that ancient world and our own? How does Noah's story inspire you to live differently today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your insights and reflections. If this video has opened your eyes, sparked a discussion, or deepened your understanding, please give a thumbs up, share it with friends and family, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into biblical mysteries, ancient prophecies, and timeless lessons for today. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you're always the first to know when we uncover another piece of history's grand tapestry. Let's continue to explore the truths that shape our world, past and present.